In northern Tanzania, bordering Kenya, lies one of Africa's most unforgiving regions, a vast expanse of savanna where life and death intersect without respite. Here, nature grants no respite. Under a harsh sky, the cracked earth stretches as far as the eye can see. In this territory, the heat is scorching during the day, and the nights bring with them a cutting cold that pierces the skin. Every living being, from the smallest insect to the most fearsome predator, fights a daily battle to survive in an environment that punishes without warning. It is a landscape of fierce contrasts where rains are brief and violent, and drought can last for weeks, turning the savanna into a desert of dust and hunger. In these lands, a creature unlike any other survives, an animal that abandoned brute force and numbers to embrace a radical strategy, absolute speed. The cheetah roams this unforgiving territory, forced to face constant danger to survive. It coexists alongside unique species, many of them on the brink of extinction, subject to the brutal law of either adapt or disappear. And among all of them, the cheetah represents the thin line between survival and failure. The history of this region is not written in stone, but in sun-bleached bones and fleeting footprints on the dry earth. Here, life depends on cunning, resilience, and the ability to anticipate danger before it becomes visible. Welcome to the wild heart of Tanzania, where time devours, heat crushes, and where creatures like the cheetah challenge nature's rules daily. On the vast plains of northern Tanzania, where the horizon stretches uninterrupted and the midday heat crushes the cracked earth, not everything is as it seems. At first glance, the savanna offers a deceptive calm. The wind sways the tall grass, a few herbivores graze in the distance, and the sky remains motionless, blue, and merciless. But in that apparent silence, a creature unlike any other moves stealthily. It is by far more agile than the lion, lighter than the hyena, less corpulent than the leopard. The cheetah has chosen another evolutionary path. Where large predators rely on strength and endurance, this one clings to an absolute specialization: speed. The cheetah spine is an extraordinarily flexible structure, capable of compressing and stretching with each stride, creating a spring-like effect that propels its body as if gravity were merely a minor condition. The long, elastic legs propel the animal over the savanna in dizzying stretches, where every contact with the ground is an opportunity or a risk. Unlike other felines, the cheetah's claws don't fully retract. They allow it to maintain a steady grip on the ground, holding onto the terrain during sharp turns when the danger of skidding at such speeds means the difference between catching its prey or dying of hunger. The tail plays a decisive role. Long, heavy and firm, it acts like a rudder, balancing changes in direction at over 100 kilometers per hour, instantly correcting every unintentional deviation, because in this brutal landscape, a chase that lasts barely seconds defines the precise boundary between life and death. It lacks the strength of a lion, nor the territorial cunning of a leopard. It lacks jaws designed to dismember large prey, and its muscles cannot tolerate prolonged combat. But what he lacks in strength or endurance, he makes up for with a unique ability, turning a split second into a decision. Every muscle, every tendon, every fiber in your body is geared toward exploiting that decisive moment, turning speed into your best and only ally. This extreme specialization conditions every aspect of their daily routine. During the day, the cheetah patrols its territory silently. It prefers open areas where low grass doesn't hinder its acceleration. Their senses are fine-tuned to detect any irregularity. An isolated movement in the herd, a lagging calf, a distracted animal. For the first few months after leaving their mother, these young animals remain together, sharing small game routes and resting spots. It is a brief alliance lasting only a year or two until the competitive instinct and the search for their own territory drive them to separate. Then each goes its own way, returning to the solitude that this landscape imposes. Meanwhile, females roam vast expanses alone, raising their cubs far from areas frequented by lions and hyenas. Solitude protects, but it also exposes. The risk is constant. Although he boasts the greatest known land speed, this gift comes with fragility. A wounded cheetah is a dead cheetah. A cheetah that fails a hunt is vulnerable to prey robbery, and without fat reserves or stored strength, its chances of survival are reduced to a minimum. Every chase involves the risk of overheating. At that speed, in less than a minute, their body temperature approaches critical levels. If it doesn't catch its prey within that range, it must stop, and if it doesn't, its collapse is imminent. Therefore, their strategy is not based on chasing everything that moves. He stalks, calculates, studies the terrain, and waits for the right moment. His choice of prey depends not only on size or distance. The exact location, a crack in the ground, a slight slope, or a patch of thicker grass can ruin everything. Scavengers detect the sign of a successful hunt through subtle cues. Air currents carry the fresh scent of fresh meat, guiding a vulture as it spirals downward, calculating just the right moment to approach. The cheetah, still panting next to its downed prey, watches it with caution. There is no direct attack or open confrontation, just a silent negotiation in which time favors the most patient. Every nearby peck, every winged shadow that lands a few meters away is a reminder that the feast is running out of time. The vulture doesn't pounce immediately. It circles. It waits for the predator, exhausted and without allies, to give in from exhaustion. It senses that patience is its ally and that prey changes owners without the need for a fight. Just as adult survival depends on this resistance to wear and tear, the next generation faces its own battles. Reproduction is also an unequal struggle. Cheetah cubs face one of the highest mortality rates among large African predators. 70% of cubs don't survive their first few months of life. Lions and leopards, upon finding an unprotected litter while the female is away hunting, take the opportunity to eliminate the young. They do not do this for food, as their goal is to reduce future competition for prey in their territory. Therefore, females must constantly move, hide their cubs in remote places, and minimize their hunting activity for weeks at a time, a delicate balance between survival and protecting the next generation. And yet, the cheetah is still here, because in an environment dominated by brute force, it managed to find another way to survive: speed, calculation, and absolute risk taken every day. As the sun begins to set and shadows lengthen across the plain, the cheetah's activity slows. The heat that has battered the land all day gives way to a cooler wind that heralds the arrival of night. The feline moves to more open areas, lies down on the grass, and reduces its movements. It doesn't hunt in the dark. Its vision, adapted to the first and last light of day, loses effectiveness in the dark. The lion then takes control of the savanna. In this terrain, when the lion begins its night stalk, the cheetah hides in the thicket or in some depression, crouching and completely silent, avoiding attention. It remains alert, cautiously managing its energy. At dawn, when the light barely touches the horizon, he will resume his constant vigilance. Every day in this landscape is a battle for survival, and none guarantees a new dawn. The morning heat slowly begins to dissipate, and the savanna awakens to increasingly distinct sounds. The wind rustles the tall grass as distant roars reverberate across the plains. Gradually, dominance changes hands, and daytime hunters regain their presence on the landscape. As the light strengthens, the slender silhouette of a female cheetah glides carefully through the tall grass. Two youngsters, just a few months old, follow her closely, barely visible among the dry stems. They are small, vulnerable, still learning to read the signs of the vast world around them. Without shelter to protect them, every step exposes them to the invisible lurking of predators. The grass that hides them can also be a trap, and the silence that surrounds them, a constant alert that forces them to remain vigilant. On these open plains, where life and death are decided in fractions of a second, the female stops beside some low bushes. She sniffs the air, examines the terrain, and moves toward a clear area. Her young imitate her, memorizing the paths where gazelles graze unguarded and the clearings where predators lurk. Each movement covers the places where hours before a lion's footprints left fresh footprints, or where the wind carries the scent of easy prey. Suddenly the female stops. Her hearing picks up something. In the distance, a figure appears against the horizon, a solitary adult male lion. It's not hunting, it's just wandering, but its mere presence is enough to disturb every movement on the savanna. The female cheetah crouches, her cubs remain motionless. The lion continues, sniffing the air, picking up traces that only he can interpret. The threat remains, silent, tense, shifting like an ancient certainty through the grass. There's no time to flee. There's no shelter nearby. Sending her young away isn't an option. If he stays, the die will be cast. But this female's ancestral instinct doesn't choose submission. Without hesitation, she takes a step toward the lion. The distance is dangerous, but not yet deadly. It challenges him. The female then begins a measured run, not at full speed, not yet. Just enough to stay within his sight, to tempt him to follow. He takes it far away, circles, zigzags through scattered bushes. Every stride counts. He doesn't run out of fear, he runs out of strategy. The lion tries to close the distance, but his heavy body, designed for strength and short attacks, cannot keep up. The cheetah accelerates, moves away, stops further ahead, moves again, thus for minutes that seem eternal. When the lion, exhausted and frustrated, finally stops its march and decides to surrender to the logic of the savanna, where expending energy without obtaining prey is a sign of defeat, the female has already memorized every meter traveled and knows precisely where she has left her cubs. Without waiting, he turns around and in a perfect line he returns. Her cubs, hidden, have remained motionless. She reaches them, checks them over with a quick nuzzle and continues on, now toward a safer area. There is no triumph in his gesture nor celebration. Victories aren't celebrated. They're merely breathed in, silently thanked and stored in memory. Because in that landscape, force decides many things, but not all. He who survives is the one who understands when to fight and when to risk. And in that brief moment, the cheetah knew how to turn her greatest vulnerability into her only opportunity. The sun sets slowly, and the shadows lengthen across the savanna. They've overcome the immediate danger, but only today's danger. The days ahead remain a constant battle, especially for her cubs, still small and fragile, who depend on their mother's every decision to survive in this unforgiving world. In the vast expanse of the savanna, life continues its course with the same harshness and precision. Among its inhabitants, a lion who spent much of his life under the protection of his pack moves through the territory with measured stride. He wasn't the largest or the most skilled, nor did he ever lead a hunt or defend a territory with ferocity. As is often the case in these groups, the balance of power is held in a strict order. And in that order, he always occupied the lowest rung. The rules are simple and ruthless. Food isn't distributed fairly, it's taken. The right to mate isn't granted, it's contested. And anyone without a mane, sufficient strength, or support among their siblings is left out in the cold. Such was his existence. Eating alone when there was something left over, taking avoidable blows, and learning to move unnoticed to avoid provoking those who outnumbered him in strength and cunning. The alpha male, with his thick, dark mane, is the living image of authority in this land. His mere presence forces the other males to bow their heads and keep their distance. None dare to challenge him because losing means exile or death. This young lion knew that hierarchy from birth. But the day came when he had to choose, make the decision that would change everything. The savanna is relentless for the undecided. Either remain a subordinate living on scraps, condemned to anonymity without offspring, or leave, an exile without guarantees, where loneliness, hunger, and other predators lurk around every corner, where no friendly roar answers and every sound is a threat. Still, he chose exile. Not much happens on the first day. The second brings stifling heat and a brief storm that leaves the ground sticky and the air thick. As the hours pass, hunger signals creep in, muscles begin to lose firmness, and the mind becomes sluggish and lazy. Adult lions require a considerable amount of meat to keep their bodies in hunting condition. Without it, their strength wanes, and their instincts become dulled. If you don't eat early, your body won't respond when you need it most. On these plains, there are no easy prey. No tiny or weakened animal wanders unprepared. Large African herbivores live here. Muscular antelopes, swift zebras, and robust-bodied oryx with spear-like horns. These creatures have survived because they know the rules of the land. That's why lions hunt in packs. Alone, their chances of success are slim. But for this lion, there is no choice now. One afternoon, in the middle of that land where everything seems distant and hostile, he sees it. A young oryx, separated from its group, nibbles at the grass, unaware of the presence of a hunter. The opportunity is slim, but unique. For minutes, the lion remains hidden, analyzing the distance, the wind direction, and the possible exits of its prey. There's no room for error. If you fail, exhaustion and injury will doom you. And then, he launches. The race is short, tense, with no room for distractions. In seconds, the lion's paws close the gap, and in a calculated leap, its claws sink into the oryx's back. The animal immediately shakes its head in violent movements, trying to tear the attacker apart with its long horns. The impact hits the lion's side, but fails to move it. Because for this lone hunter, there's no such thing as a second chance. He can't wait for the next day, or for another hunt with companions. This moment decides his fate. He holds his ground, resists the blows, and with his jaws clamped on the oryx's neck, he begins to tear. Blood soon appears, darkening the ground beneath them. The skin gives way and raw flesh is exposed. The oryx kicks, first in desperation, then as an automatic reflex. Death in this place does not come with honor or justice. It is the inevitable outcome of those who cannot escape, and those who cannot afford to fail. And so, what began as the misfortune of a banished lion becomes the first victory of his new existence. Without a pack, without support, and without external rules, a life where each meal is earned alone, and where each scar tells its own story. This lion, until now anonymous, has taken the first step toward writing an unlikely legend. One of those rare lives in which a male, tired of the chains of his group, throws himself into the abyss of the savanna and instead of succumbing, survives. And if he manages to live long enough, he might even become what once oppressed him, a solitary male, master of his own territory, his food, and his destiny. But that remains to be seen. For now, night falls, and with the oryx's body half devoured, this lion contemplates a horizon that, for the first time, is completely his own. In the African savanna, the oldest law is not written in stone, but in flesh. He who does not strive, dies. He who does not take risks, disappears. And lions, unlike the prey that surrounds them, understood thousands of generations ago that survival is not a matter of luck, but of determination. A lion pride is a tightly organized society. Each member has their place and duty. The lionesses hunt, care for the cubs, and defend the territory. For their part, the males, when they reach sufficient size and strength, fight to consolidate their social and territorial dominance. But not everyone reaches that place. Many are born, grow up, and die without leaving a mark on this world. And those, the herd casts them aside. When a lion becomes slow, cowardly, or gets used to taking what it has not hunted, it becomes a hindrance. No one protects or defends him. The same family that once sheltered him is expelling him. It condemns him to walk alone until hunger or predators end his life. And it is this brutality, this intolerance of weakness, that has made lions the masters of these lands. They have never allowed themselves to settle. There is no room for laziness. There is no room for fear. If a lion is not willing to die in a fight, if he does not face stronger opponents, or if he does not participate in a hunt until his last breath, he does not deserve to belong to the pride. It's always been that way. And for that very reason, they alone rule the savanna. Around you, an overwhelming majority of herbivores inhabit these plains: zebras, wildebeests, gazelles, antelopes, animals born with the curse of cowardice inscribed on their bodies. Their eyes don't look straight ahead, but sideways. Their legs weren't made for attack, but for flight. And their mouths, incapable of tearing, resign themselves to grazing. Evolution doesn't reward conformity. It gave these animals long legs to run and sensitive ears to listen, but it never allowed them to defy. They live in herds, they get lost in the crowd, and they wait for someone else to fall first. Only very occasionally does one of them stop accepting their fate and confront their limitations, but these are exceptional cases and almost always unsuccessful. The lion, on the other hand, is part of a natural elite that has chosen, from its origins, to live on the margins of danger, and it has paid the price. For every adult lion that stands in the sun, many have died before reaching it. Only those who eliminated their fear, their conformity, and their weakness inherited these lands. Here there are no inheritances or granted titles. Position is earned, and those who don't demonstrate consistent courage will sink. It's a world where kindness guarantees nothing and compassion is a non-existent luxury. That invisible but omnipresent rule separates those who look to the horizon as masters from those who merely graze and flee. Each generation, those who don't adapt disappear, and those who remain pass on their brutality, their ferocity, and their resilience. As a result, lions enjoy privileges that no other animal in this environment can afford. On the savanna, where every creature lives watching for shadows, measuring distances, and fearing the next attack, lions walk without looking back. They have no natural predators. No one dares to challenge them. This allows them to dominate the safest water sources, those that remain fresh even in the dry season. They can rest under the most leafy trees, where the foliage protects them from harsh light and moisture is retained for longer. The shadows of those trees are territory reserved for the kings of these lands. No herbivore, no matter how large, stops there if a lion is present. After a successful hunt, lions feed until their stomachs can't hold another bite, and then they sleep. They are capable of resting for more than 20 hours a day, undisturbed. During this time, herbivores graze at a distance, scavengers wait at a prudent margin, and jackals prowl silently. That privilege of sleeping without fear, of resting one's body without one eye always open, is a reward reserved only for them. Because this place doesn't reward the good, but those who endured the price of getting to the top. In addition to their physical strength, lions have developed unique adaptations. They are born prepared to survive in a hostile environment. Their eyes perceive details in the darkness that others can't. Their hearing picks up distant frequencies, and their sense of smell interprets invisible messages carried on the breeze from miles away. A lion's instinct is a tool honed by generations of violence. He can perceive the direction of a group of prey before his vision confirms it. An irregular movement in the grass, a change in the wind, or a sudden silence in a certain area are all signals his subconscious processes before his reason intervenes. And when everything seems calm, when the afternoon becomes dense and the heat crushes the plain, that same unconscious warns him that something is not right. An almost physical feeling, a slight tension in the muscles, as if your body were telling you that death is closer than normal. That invisible code has saved thousands of lions before him, and now it lives in his blood. That's why lions don't run away. That's why they don't give up territory. That's why they rest where others don't dare. They are the dominant predators not only because they can hunt, but because from the moment they are born, everything about them, their body, their mind, and their instincts, is designed to survive where others fail. They've paid a high price for it. Every generation has. But the result is this: an animal that can sleep peacefully while everything around it remains on alert. And yet, behind all the violence, the territorial battles, the bloody hunts, and the exile of the weak, there is something about lions that unsettles anyone who observes them closely. Despite being relentless predators, lions are also one of the most affectionate social animals in all of Africa. Unlike tigers, who roam their ranges alone and avoid all contact with other adult animals, lions cannot survive without their pride. They need companionship, physical closeness, and a structure that keeps the group together. Every day, between long hours of sleep and days of hunting, the lions groom each other. They spend entire minutes using their tongues to clean the wounds and dust from the fur of their brothers, sisters, and cubs. They rub their faces, caress each other, and lie on top of each other, seeking direct contact. It is not a superficial gesture, but a vital code. This behavior strengthens group bonds. It's the only way they can maintain cooperation in an environment where resources are scarce and competition is fierce. Where words don't exist, and language is built from contact, from closeness, from sharing a shelter in the shade or the carcass of a freshly hunted animal. It's also a matter of strategy. Physical consortium maintains the pack's scent uniformity, confuses smaller predators, and strengthens the group's position in its territory. It is a custom inherited from ancestors who learned that, without cooperation, no male, no matter how strong, could sustain a herd on his own. Therefore, while other big cats prefer solitude, lions were born to live together. Because in this land, where death lurks around every corner, violence erupts in seconds, and the hierarchy decides life or exile. Only those who know when to fight and when to share survive. The lion is, in short, an animal of extremes. capable of mercilessly tearing apart a prey or remorselessly expelling a weak brother, but also of sleeping inches from a rival, sharing food with its cubs, and tenderly grooming a wounded sister. And perhaps that's what makes him such a fascinating creature, both for nature and for humans. It's not his strength, speed, and roar, it's his ability to move between absolute savagery and the most honest affection, between death and rest, between solitude and brotherhood. An animal with so many facets that even after millions of years it remains a paradigm for its species. The savanna remains motionless in the dull afternoon light. A lion yawns, another lies down beside it. Somewhere hyenas prowl and gazelles keep their eyes on the horizon. But for now, just for now, everything remains in balance. And here, in this corner of Africa, it will remain that way. In the African jungle, where the mist kisses the treetops and shadows lurk around every corner, the battle for survival is incessant, eternal, inevitable. But not all inhabitants of this environment rely on speed or strength to survive. Some have chosen stealth as their best strategy. Further down, where sunlight barely manages to filter through the dense treetops and moisture accumulates in a thick layer over the fertile soil, lives one of the most enigmatic and discreet creatures of the African tropical ecosystem, Jackson's chameleon. This reptile has adapted to a solitary existence where speed and aggression are not tools of survival, but quite the opposite. In a world that seems to spin at warp speed, he has perfected the art of slowness and invisibility. His life isn't measured in races or chases, but in calculated pauses, in a strategic stillness that allows him to merge with his surroundings until he becomes a part of them. In this world of shadows and intense green, their lifestyle turns out to be a masterpiece of evolution. Males are distinguished by their 3 prominent horns protruding from their heads, reminiscent of a miniature triceratops. But far from being weapons for violent combat, these bony appendages are symbols of power and communication tools that mark hierarchies without the need for injury. They are the result of a long process of natural selection in which individuals who best exhibit these attributes manage to avoid unnecessary fights, conserve their energy, and increase their chances of survival. These threat rituals, which include slow but imposing movements, display postures, and intensified colors, are part of a refined evolutionary dance. Actual physical confrontations are rare and only occur if confrontation is unavoidable. Thanks to this strategy, Jackson's chameleons have achieved a safer coexistence where physical integrity is not compromised, and energy is conserved for vital tasks such as hunting or reproduction. Every moment is marked by stillness and attention, a state in which they blend into the environment without being detected. Thus the hours pass, motionless and vigilant, waiting for the right moment to act. It has extraordinary stereoscopic vision with eyes that move independently, allowing it to observe in 2 different directions at the same time without moving its head or body. This ability gives him an unmatched tactical advantage. He can detect the presence of prey or predators without revealing his position. When it detects prey, usually crickets, grasshoppers, larvae, and other small insects, its attack is swift. Its extensible, muscular, and sticky tongue is launched like a projectile at impressive speed, catching the insect before it can react. This tongue can extend up to twice its body length, allowing it to capture prey at surprising distances without moving from the spot. But it's not just their tongue that's their hunting tool, their skin is too. This 3-horned reptile has the ability to change color, a sophisticated mechanism that responds to light, temperature, emotional state, and the need for communication. This ability allows it to both remain unnoticed by predators and send visual signals to other chameleons without making a single sound. Life in the understory, although seemingly more tranquil than the agitation of the canopy, is fraught with threats. Birds of prey, tree snakes, and small carnivorous mammals lurk in the shadows. Here, every step must be precise, every pause deliberate. Survival depends not on speed, but on strategy. This reptile doesn't chase its food, it waits for it. Remaining motionless is its favorite tactic, watching with its rolling eyes until an opportunity presents itself. Then, without warning, it flicks out its tongue with surgical precision, and it catches its prey. This small creature stands out for its larger size, being able to reach up to 35 centimeters in length. This trait is no coincidence. They live in mid-altitude mountain forests, where temperatures can drop considerably. A larger body mass allows them to conserve heat better and withstand prolonged periods of fasting during times of scarcity. In this demanding environment, the strategies of each sex follow different paths. Females, smaller and less aggressive, focus their energy on reproduction. After mating, they dig shallow holes in the moist soil where they deposit their eggs. This task is not random. They carefully choose places with stable temperatures and a certain constant humidity, fundamental conditions for development. A single clutch can contain up to 30 eggs, which remain hidden for 9 months before hatching. But even these experienced hunters must remain alert, because the jungle is always and everywhere an unpredictable landscape. Raptors swoop overhead in search of distracted prey, and tree snakes, adept at stealth, lurk from above. On an exposed branch, a chameleon remains motionless, confident in the cover of its surroundings. But a shadow slips between the leaves, a green snake, slow and patient, slithering closer. Each leaf it brushes leaves a trail of movement that the chameleon detects too late. The distance is reduced to centimeters. Only a slight tremor of its crest betrays it. The snake stops and assesses. As a last resort, the chameleon darkens its skin, blending into a nearby branch. The snake hesitates, barely for a moment. The predator decides to continue on its way, disappearing into the foliage. With the immediate danger dissipated, the chameleon resumes its stillness. But not for long. The light begins to fade and the chill slowly settles among the branches. When night falls and the temperature drops, their behavior changes completely. It retreats to more protected areas of the forest, where dense vegetation helps conserve some heat. He reduces his movements to a minimum, almost as if freezing, relying on his camouflage and immobility to avoid detection. It lacks internal mechanisms to generate heat, so the cold at night represents a real danger. At dawn, the jungle resumes its activity. With the rising temperature, insect-eating birds begin to flutter through the bushes, and chameleons, still numb, move with extreme caution. Every movement is slow, and every step he stops to observe the surroundings with his rotating eyes. Everything indicates that the day is just beginning, but the risks are already imminent. Near a lichen-covered trunk, a male remains motionless. His skin blends into the damp, greenish color of the moss. His eyes follow with millimetric precision a beetle that ascends, completely oblivious to the danger. After a quick assessment of distance and humidity, the chameleon flicks out its tongue and silently catches the insect. However, this action does not go unnoticed. A tree snake senses the subtle vibration of a gentle movement among the branches. It slithers slowly without breaking a single leaf, its forked tongue tasting the dense air. The tiny chameleon senses the threat. In a split second, its skin darkens, its body flattens against the bark, blending into the moss and shadows. For a moment, everything remains still. Silence weighs heavily. The snake approaches, its head hovering a few centimeters above. It explores with precision, following imperceptible trails. The chameleon remains rigid, but a slight tremor betrays its position. A minimal vibration, almost imperceptible to anyone else, is enough for this predator. The snake strikes without warning. Its fangs sink in, immobilizing the small figure. There's no resistance, there's no sound. In a matter of seconds, the body is suspended between the branches, and the reptile continues its ascent, taking its prey with it. In this environment, even adaptive perfection has limits, and sometimes those limits fail. On the mountain slopes of East Africa, where this mountain chameleon lives, the weather can change dramatically from one moment to the next. Daytime temperatures can approach 30 degrees, but at night they can drop below 10. This harsh environment has molded chameleons into resilient and adaptable creatures. During the rainy season, the rainforest transforms. Humidity reaches its peak, the vegetation bursts into vibrant green, and insects proliferate in abundance. For chameleons, this is the best time of year. They eat frequently, gain weight, and prepare for the reproductive season. The eggs hidden months ago begin to hatch, releasing tiny hatchlings ready to face a world full of dangers alone. However, abundance also attracts more predators. Birds increase their daytime activity, while snakes redouble their nighttime hunting. Even opportunistic mammals travel along the understory trails in search of small, slow-moving prey. Life accelerates at all levels of the ecosystem. Among these nocturnal inhabitants, one of the most unusual begins his day with the arrival of darkness. As night falls and the air cools, a figure slips into the shadows. Slow, steady, and silent, a compact, bristling silhouette glides through the undergrowth. In the dim light, its spines curve upward like primitive spears. This is the crested porcupine, the largest rodent on the African continent. Weighing over 15 kilos and sporting a fearsome shell, it has learned to survive in these lands without resorting to speed or claws. Its spines, which can reach 35 centimeters, are modified hairs of shocking hardness and sharpness. Some are designed to break on contact, inserting themselves into the enemy's flesh. Others, especially those in the tail, are hollow and emit a dry, almost metallic sound when vibrated. An ancient warning message that no one should approach. It's not a predator. It lives off what it finds underground: roots, bark, tubers, and the occasional stray insect. But their diet has a unique component: bones. It breaks them insistently, extracting the calcium and phosphorus necessary to keep its framework of spikes in optimal condition. Also, their teeth grow very fast, and it is a necessity for them to sharpen them frequently. Inside their burrows, it's common to find a macabre collection of skulls, ribs, and vertebrae. They're not trophies, but resources. There, in the safety of their underground home, their young are born. They come into the world blind, defenseless, and with soft spines, so as not to injure their mother during birth. However, in less than a week, those defenses harden, preparing them for an environment that doesn't tolerate mistakes. The outside world is unforgiving. Although the porcupine is a well-protected animal, the savanna is full of threats. There's always someone lurking. Sometimes they announce themselves with grunts, other times with the whisper of the wind that caresses their hidden bodies. Among the dry bushes, two eyes shine with sinister anxiety. The spotted hyena moves alone tonight. It is an animal that emits a macabre laugh, a tireless scavenger, and when necessary, a cunning hunter. Their jaws, the most powerful of African carnivores, can pulverize bones that others dare not touch. But his mind also knows how to calculate risks. Hyenas have learned that attacking a porcupine can result in quills lodged in their snouts or throats. But despite all this, hunger is a driving force that overrides prudence. This hyena sniffs, waits, watches. It looks for an opportunity, perhaps a hatchling that has ventured too far. Perhaps a careless prey, but she's not alone in the hunt. Higher up on a rock formation overlooking the terrain, an imposing figure watches silently. The male lion's dark mane gently rustles in the night breeze. He is a solitary ruler, one who has learned to hunt out of necessity, not habit. Unlike hyenas, it doesn't rely on the pack. Its 150-plus kilos of power allow it to stalk without fear. Tonight, however, the savanna is empty of large game. The herds of wildebeest and zebra have moved in search of water. And while a porcupine is no feast for the lion, desperation can cloud even the most powerful judgment. The feline descends from its height with controlled movements. Its breathing is restrained, its paws planted with surgical precision. The porcupine, for its part, stops. It senses something. It bristles, its quills rising like a living barricade. Its tail begins to vibrate. The sound it makes is not loud, but it is clear. The lion approaches, 1 meter, half. The porcupine turns, presenting its back like a shield. It twirls its tail, it hisses more intensely, and then he fires a flurry of quills. One of them grazes the feline's cheek, leaving a faint but sufficient mark. The lion stops. Remember, in other encounters, other lions ended up injured, with their paws impaled or their muzzles bloodied. These mistakes are paid for dearly in lands where every unhealed wound can mean death. The great predator retreats. It doesn't run. It moves away with wounded dignity, but knowing it has been defeated by an infinitely smaller animal. He settles back on his lookout, waiting for easier prey. The porcupine, for his part, continues on his way as if nothing had happened. The night isn't over yet. In the vastness of the savanna, where every sound seems to be absorbed into the dense air, a deceptive calm dominates the landscape. Between the hot rocks and dry grass, a presence glides with a silence that cuts through the pulse of the surroundings. Barely a ripple in the earth, almost an invisible whisper reveals the slow, calculated advance of a python. It's one of the continent's most feared reptiles, growing to over 6 meters and swallowing prey the size of an antelope. Although this adult rodent is out of reach due to its spines, the newborn babies do represent a possibility. They are soft, small, and vulnerable. That's why the mother doesn't stray too far from the burrow during the first few days of her offspring's lives. Her presence is the best defense against the invisible, against that which doesn't roar but presses. With the arrival of dawn, the savanna changes its rhythm. The shadows shorten, the sounds change. In the sky, buzzards circle slowly through the air, detecting any movement in the bushes with mathematical precision. From above, your view pierces the undergrowth like a scalpel. Everything plays a role. Even the smallest insects are vital parts of this ecosystem. In the distance, the hyena has given up. The porcupine's risk outweighs its reward. It has caught the scent of a dying wildebeest, perhaps wounded the night before. It moves away, leaving the small, spiky giant behind. Her high-pitched laugh cuts through the air, a sound that seems to celebrate the decision not to face the impossible. The lion watches. Hunger persists, but it won't attack today. Tomorrow, perhaps. Meanwhile, the crested porcupine, now with its stomach full of roots, bulbs, and bone remains, begins its return to its shelter. The sky begins to clear. The stars fade. A few meters away, the warmth of the earth continues to protect its young. He swishes his tail once more, as if to announce his presence to those still walking in the dark. The metallic sound resonates like a distant echo, a message that lingers in the savanna. He is not the hunter, but he will not be prey either. Several kilometers away, soaring across the skies of East Africa, the white-necked crow becomes a constant presence, almost inseparable from the landscape that dominates this region. Its dark silhouette, perfectly cut against the sky, cuts through the cold air of the heights, marking invisible routes that only these birds know. Meanwhile, their hoarse cries echo among the cliffs and bushes, as if announcing that this land belongs to them too. This African corvid is easily identifiable by a distinctive feature that separates it from the rest of its relatives, a white ring around its neck that contrasts markedly with its black plumage. This mark gives it an air of solemnity, almost of authority, as if it were wearing a kind of badge. In an environment where many species rely on discretion, the white-necked crow stands out proudly. Whether under clear skies or under the mist of the peaks, he always seems to have control of the terrain. Endowed with exceptional intelligence, this crow is one of the most cunning inhabitants of the region. His brain, although small, processes the world with agility. He remembers, learns, plans. From a solitary branch or a sharp rock outcrop, he tirelessly observes the world at his feet. Nothing escapes his keen eye. A reptile slithering among the stones, an insect stirring the grass, or even the subtle movement of a predator in the shadows. Each stimulus can represent an opportunity or a threat. Omnivorous and versatile, this bird has turned its diet into a masterpiece of adaptation. It feeds on carrion abandoned by lions, insects hidden under bark, small reptiles seeking warmth in rocks, and ripe wild fruits. Even the hardest seeds rejected by other animals can be part of their menu. Its ability to adapt to whatever the environment throws at it, especially during the dry seasons, makes it a natural survivor. Where others succumb to scarcity, the white-necked crow survives thanks to its ingenuity and foresight. But its ability isn't limited to finding food. It can also use tools such as small branches to extract insects from crevices, stones to crack shells, or thorns to search in inaccessible places. It is not uncommon to see several individuals cooperating with each other, especially when facing large prey or when they must defend a food source from other scavengers such as jackals. This cooperation reveals a more complex social structure than one might imagine. In the higher elevations, where trees disappear and rock formations dominate, breeding pairs carefully choose their nesting sites. They choose inaccessible holes, deep crevices or cavities in twisted trunks. These natural shelters offer protection from inclement weather and predators such as tree snakes, which are experts at finding unprotected nests. The breeding season completely transforms the routine of these birds. The pair cooperates completely. Both parents take turns caring for their fragile chicks, which are blind, helpless, and completely dependent upon birth for the next 4 weeks. until they begin to open their eyes and gain a degree of autonomy. While one watches from above, the other ventures across vast areas in search of food. This precise choreography leaves no room for error. Any carelessness can have fatal consequences. If a parent is late, the young can die of starvation or chilling. If the nest is left alone, a predator can destroy everything in seconds. The male arrives with a lizard in his beak, still fresh and shiny in the morning sun. He perches on the edge of the nest, tears it apart with precision, and feeds the chicks small morsels. Their desperate screams contrast with their still, clumsy bodies, which struggle to stay upright. The mother remains vigilant, fixed on the horizon, aware that any carelessness could be fatal. The chicks grow quickly, but danger is never far away. Within a few days, the grey down covering them is replaced by the first dark feathers. They open their eyes to the world, and their curiosity drives them to move inside the nest, to stretch, to test their wings. After 20 days, they venture to the edge, observing the immensity of the landscape that surrounds them, a mixture of savanna, volcanic rock, and endless sky. The first attempt at flight is not long in coming. One of them, the strongest, takes the plunge. It glides awkwardly but lands unharmed. He has begun his independent life, but the ground is treacherous. Genets, servals, and even solitary jackals lurk there. Parents follow their young closely, calling, guiding, and warning them. With every step, the world becomes wider and more dangerous. In the dry season, when the days are long and dusty, food is scarce. This scavenger, however, forges ahead. Its memory guides it to caches of seeds buried days before. It also uses nuts, bones that others discarded, or straggler insects. Unlike many African birds, this crow stores food, which allows it to better withstand periods of scarcity. Despite its cunning, danger is constant. By searching under a rock, it can become prey for a feline. The serval, with its silent gait, lurks among the grasses, waiting for a distraction. But these crows rarely allow themselves to be surprised. Their keen eyesight and trained hearing allow them to anticipate the attack. If anything seems out of place, they move away immediately, alerting others with their distinctive alarm call. In heaven, competition is also fierce. At dawn, when the carrion is exposed after the night's hunt, real battles are fought for every morsel. The crows swoop down, pounce on the food, and defend it with great insistence. Coordination is essential. While some feed, others protect. For days, this constant rhythm keeps the group well fed. But nothing stays still for long in these lands. When the rains finally come, the landscape changes completely. The grasses turn green, insects emerge en masse, and life multiplies. For this bird, it is a time of abundance. It delights in tender shoots, invertebrates of all kinds, and newly formed fruits. But the challenges are also increasing. More food means more competition. During this period, aerial battles become routine. Squawks fill the sky, chases are constant, every bite is fought for. But the white-necked crow isn't intimidated. His experience and intelligence always keep him one step ahead of his opponents. In the broad daylight, the heat transforms the savanna into a scorching blanket that oppresses the ground and suffocates the air. Crows, perched high above, take advantage of the opportunity to rest without lowering their guard. Threats can come even in these seemingly calm moments. Heat exhaustion or dehydration can be as dangerous as, or more dangerous than, a predator. But activity returns when the sun begins its descent. New opportunities arise when a predator fails in its attempt or when a weakened prey finally falls. Crows patrol the sky, alert for any sign of carrion or suspicious movement. Their gaze scans the corners, their instincts calculating the risk. There is not a moment of the day that they waste. As the sun sets behind the undulations of the savanna, dyeing the horizon in ochre and gold hues, the crows intensify their activity. Flocks fly over the savanna, alert to the steps of jackals, hyenas, or straggler lions. The day isn't over yet. There's still food to be found. There are still babies to be fed. There's still much to watch over. But while night reclaims its momentary reign, the cycle of life never stops, and at the first light of dawn, everything begins again. Dawn rises pale over the vast savanna, stretching as far as the eye can see. A gentle breeze combs the tall grass, carrying the ancient scent of awakening life. It's a scent that mixes dust, sap, and the moisture retained during the night. In this primeval setting, where silence still lingers after the shadows have receded, a solitary figure breaks into the stillness. His gait is clumsy but firm. It is the only living representative of its order, the aardvark. It has no close relatives among modern mammals. It is a living fossil that has withstood the passage of time with a body that seems molded by the very earth it walks on. Its rough, cracked, earthy skin camouflages it perfectly in the African landscape. It is a nocturnal creature that lives in a world of roots, dust, and muffled sounds. Their existence is a balance between fragility and cunning in a constant dance to survive. Still wrapped in the shadows of dawn, it emerges from its burrow, a narrow entrance dug into the base of a hill. Inside, away from the scorching heat and predators, the burrowing mammal finds protection. These burrows are not simple holes. They are true underground shelters that can extend up to 10 meters long and reach 3 meters deep. When they abandon them, other animals such as foxes, porcupines, and even reptiles use them as temporary housing. Excavated with powerful claws and patience, these galleries are natural shields against the threats of the open savanna. At the entrance, the animal stops. Its long, mobile ears turn in different directions. Its nostrils flare to capture every scent in the air. Any sign, the creak of a branch or the rustle of a leaf, can alter their course. The night still holds its last breaths, but hunger is already calling, and with slow movements the aardvark begins its search. Its diet is exclusive: ants and termites. It can consume up to 50,000 in a single night. Their senses are finely tuned to detect these tiny invertebrates. Their sense of smell is a formidable tool, capturing traces of heat and moisture. When it identifies a nest, it digs with sturdy, curved claws, removing soil with surprising precision. Then it inserts its tubular snout into the galleries, sucking with its viscous, retractable tongue, which can reach up to 30 centimeters. Coated in sticky saliva, it catches prey almost effortlessly. In the dim light, this species of African anteater clicks its tongue and chews efficiently. The crazed termites either fly or run in vain. They don't stand a chance against this gigantic rival. Amidst the buzzing and gnashing of tiny jaws, he reigns alone. Its feeding method doesn't destroy, it filters and absorbs. A silent, ancient mechanism. In the distance, a distinct sound erupts, perhaps a leopard, a stealthy hunter prowling unannounced. Although it rarely attacks this termite hunter, it wouldn't waste such an easy opportunity. Hyenas and pythons also pose potential threats. But this mammal avoids danger with intelligence. It is discreet, nocturnal, and extremely cautious. Still, his ears detect vibrations. Something is moving nearby. There's no panic, but his attention sharpens. Their real struggle is not against predators, but against scarcity, the harshness of the terrain, and the constant need to feed. With the dawn light lighting up the treetops, he changes strategy. He avoids open spaces and ventures into areas of wind-worn termite mounds. There, where others would see nothing but eroded mounds, he finds life. He tears into the hardened surface and extracts his food with a tirelessly working tongue. Your body's structure is optimized for this ancient routine, strong, silent, and efficient. Around them, other animals follow their own routines. Nearby, a hawk circles, keeping watch from above. It completely ignores the aardvark. In fact, its eyes seek out smaller, more exposed prey. When the sun rises and the savanna begins to vibrate under its heat, the aardvark returns to its refuge. The moist earth inside the burrow offers immediate relief. There he rests, and this time he's not alone. A newborn calf trembles beneath his flank. Its skin is pink, still lacking the hardness that maturity offers. The mother cleans her with delicate bites and nuzzles, transmitting her first messages from her environment. How to distinguish vibrations, how to interpret sounds, essential lessons for surviving in this demanding landscape. However, even that sanctuary is not invulnerable. As evening falls, when the heat subsides and sweet smells float in the air, an African python slithers toward its burrow. The snake advances slowly with the patience of hunters who have perfected their method over millennia. From within, the aardvark picks up the vibration of its movement. It tenses, its senses are activated. He can't confront her directly, but he can't abandon her to her fate either. Protects her young, evaluates, calculates. Brute force won't be enough. He then resorts to his best tool, the earth. With a precise movement, he partially collapses the main tunnel, raising a cloud of dust that confuses the intruder. Then he begins to excavate a narrow, winding emergency passage. It flees with the young clinging to its body, emerging through a second exit, well hidden among dry roots. Behind her, the python encounters a wall of freshly fallen earth. Frustrated, it changes course. Night falls again over the landscape. Mother and daughter emerge again. The baby clings tightly to her mother's belly, smelling the scents outside for the first time. The air brings him unfamiliar signs: damp earth, insects, traces of distant animals. But all is calm. This time there's no danger imminent. Under the moonlight, the still clumsy baby ventures a few steps, cautiously feeling the warm ground. The mother follows closely behind, not missing a single detail. As the world slowly shuts down, mother and daughter continue their routine. The training has begun. A small termite mound will be his first lesson. The mother shows him how to scratch, how to sniff, how to capture hidden prey. It's hard at first, but she persists. Instinct guides her. She will learn, as generations before her have. In contrast to the tranquility of the aardvarks, among the low vegetation and grasslands, glides a solitary predator of great skill, the serval. This slender, agile, and silent feline possesses precise movements that make it an efficient hunter. Its physical structure is designed to maximize its hunting possibilities. Remarkably elongated legs, flexible body, and almost imperceptible movements. These legs, unusual among felines, not only allow it to move easily on uneven terrain, but also give it the ability to execute vertical jumps of up to 3 meters. This leaping power makes it one of the most efficient hunters on the African continent, capable of capturing birds in flight and detecting minimal movements from greater heights. Beyond his physique, the key to his success as a hunter lies in his extraordinary hearing. Their large, mobile ears move independently and act as authentic biological radars capable of capturing frequencies imperceptible to other animals. This auditory sensitivity allows it to detect everything from the rustling of a rodent underground to the subtle fluttering of an insect in the undergrowth. The feline is a precision machine that does not act on impulse. Every movement, every leap, every swipe is calculated. Unlike African big cats that rely on group cooperation, the serval is completely solitary. It does not share its territory, nor tolerate the presence of other individuals. He patrols his hunting area meticulously, avoiding encounters that could cause conflict or reduce the availability of prey. This solitary behavior continues even during childbearing. Females must face the challenge of raising their young alone. After a gestation period of about 75 days, they give birth to between 1 and 3 completely blind and dependent offspring. During the first few weeks, the mother faces a constant dilemma. She needs to hunt to survive, but she can't stray too far from the shelter, as any carelessness could attract predators such as jackals, snakes, or birds of prey. The young are born weighing just 250 grams and depend exclusively on their mother's protective instinct. The birthing site is usually carefully hidden among dense vegetation or in natural cavities such as hollow logs or holes beneath rocks. The natural camouflage of the spotted coat is its best defense during the first weeks of life. During this period, they do not make any sounds, do not move much, and their mother is responsible for keeping the shelter clean to avoid attracting predators. This wild cat hunts mostly during the day, which allows it to avoid competition with other nocturnal African predators. This strategy not only provides greater access to prey, but also reduces the risk of dangerous encounters. Their diet is predominantly carnivorous and focuses on small terrestrial mammals, especially rodents. It is estimated that about 90% of their diet comes from this type of prey. This fact is not insignificant. It makes the serval a natural regulator of rodent populations, fulfilling an important ecological role in the balance of the African savanna. However, their diet is flexible and adapts to environmental conditions. During the rainy season, when temporary pools and wetlands emerge, the serval incorporates amphibians such as frogs and toads. These become vulnerable on wet ground, making hunting easier. It also expands its food range to include small birds, reptiles, large insects such as locusts and beetles, and even eggs when it can find them. In times of abundance, their menu diversifies, but in times of scarcity, their specialization in hunting rodents remains their greatest asset. The region's scrubland and tall grass provide the ideal setting for this feline to display its skills. There, in the calm of dawn, it begins its hunting journey. The early hours of the day, when the sun's rays have not yet fully warmed the terrain and sounds are muffled by the morning mist, represent the best time to find active but still vulnerable prey. The savanna cat moves with surprising smoothness. Its padded paws touch the damp ground without making a sound, as if it were floating above the vegetation. Then a tiny sound breaks the stillness. It could be the rustle of a leaf moved by the body of a mouse or the subtle splash of a frog. The hunter stops. His ears rotate independently, locating the source of the sound. He crouches down, his whiskers twitching slightly as he measures the distance. And in an instant, without making a single noise, it rises vertically with brutal power. As it falls, its claws open and pierce the ground. The objective is clear. The prey, caught by surprise, has no time to react, and a single bite is enough to end the hunt. This tireless precision is the result of years of evolution and learning that begins at a very young age. The puppies, once they open their eyes, watch their mother's every move. They see how she stalks, how she positions herself, how she jumps. They learn by imitation, and their first clumsy and ineffective hunts are part of a long process of improvement. Failure is not a sustainable option. On the savanna, hunger is a swift punishment. Despite being relatively small compared to other African cats, rarely weighing more than 18 kilos, the serval makes up for its size with a reaction speed and agility that are astonishing. This combination of characteristics makes it one of the most successful felines in terms of hunting efficiency. But this lifestyle isn't without risks. Despite its ability to climb trees and its great speed over short distances, the serval can't relax. This region is also home to large predators, where a single mistake can cost you a life. Therefore, the feline carefully chooses its patrol routes, avoiding territories where the tracks of larger predators intersect, and taking advantage of thick undergrowth as permanent cover. Dry seasons also pose challenges. With less vegetation to hide in and less water available, the feline must expand its hunting range and risk moving into more open areas. Even so, his discretion is such that he is rarely seen in action. Most sightings recorded by camera traps show the serval moving quickly, crossing open spaces cautiously and always alert to the sounds of its surroundings. During the rains, the landscape changes. New sounds appear: the buzzing of insects, the croaking of frogs, the creaking of soft branches. The feline takes advantage of this wealth to diversify its diet. During these times, even insects that for other animals might be merely a secondary resource become valuable prey for this wild cat. The locust invasion, for example, represents a timely feast. With agile and swift movements, the feline catches these flying insects with precise swipes or intercepts them mid-pounce. The serval's life rhythm is shaped by the landscape. Every creak, every shadow, every vibration of the ground is vital information. Its senses are constantly on alert. Youngsters learn to read this language of their environment from a young age. It's not just about hunting, it's about understanding the terrain, knowing when to advance and when to hide. They practice jumping, stalking without moving, copying their mother until their bodies become perfect tools for silent hunting. This feline doesn't need the strength of a lion or the extreme speed of a cheetah. Its survival depends on discretion, mindfulness, and a deep connection with its surroundings. It hunts a few meters away, unseen. It hides in the shadows where the grass brushes its back and makes it part of the landscape. A moment of distraction is enough to lose a prey. A mistake can attract a predator. Every day is a challenge, every day of hunting, a test to be overcome in this vast, hostile territory.